Good. All right. All right. We'll test that. I would like to call the February 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Town of Cicero Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Ms. Robeson, please call the roll.
Here.
Here.
Here. Please take note of the fire exits located in the front and the rear of this room. At this time, please silence all cell phones and pagers. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and is also being recorded. This time, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Has everyone read the minutes of our January 6th, 2025 meeting? Are there any corrections? All right,
Aside from what Ms. Robeson mentioned, no.
okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay, by Mr. Bick. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Ms. Luckett. You will please call the roll.
Yes, to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes, to the motion.
Yes to the motion. The Cicero Town Board acknowledges the importance of full public participation at all public meetings, and therefore we urge all who wish to address those in attendance to please come to the microphone located in the front of the room. At this time, I will make a motion that all actions taken tonight are type 2 actions and have a negative impact that is no impact on the environment unless otherwise indicated. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mays, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Yes, to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes, to the motion.
Yes to the motion. We have proof that all items on tonight's agenda have been advertised as directed by law. I'll briefly review the process for tonight's meeting. Each applicant will have an opportunity to describe their project. The board will then ask questions about the project. I will then open a public hearing where people will be able to speak for or against the proposed variance. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to public input and provide additional information. Board members will be allowed to ask follow-on questions. The board will then openly discuss the 5 factors that contribute to the final decision. Please note that this board does not have a pre-agenda meeting, so there is no prior discussion of cases outside of this meeting. And then finally, a motion will be made either approving or denying the requested variance, seconded, and voted upon. So our first and only case tonight is continuation of an application from last month's meeting for an area variance for property on the southeast corner of McKinley and Pardee Roads. It's tax map 0920125.0. The owner and applicant is Joseph Verdi with Julian Clark of Plumney Engineering providing support. As a reminder, the public hearing was left open. If you wouldn't mind coming up. But just as a reminder, before we start, the County Planning Board did advise us that there are potential significant issues with the proposed site plan and advised the applicant and the town to coordinate further with the related agencies, adjust the site plan accordingly prior to consideration of the proposed variances or other zoning actions. Because the planning board recommended disapproval, the zoning board will have to have a supermajority to approve this request. So following our January meeting, you're asked to consider modifications that included meeting front yard setbacks as well as moving structures to adjacent parcels owned by the applicant that might be better suited for these structures, as well as moving some permanent structures outside of the required front yard, such as leach fields and septic tanks. We did get a revised site plan. It appears that you've increased the proposed McKinley front yard from 30 to 65 feet, where 75 feet is required, with no other modifications. So if you would give us an idea of the reasoning behind the changes and some of the changes that weren't made.
I think on Pardee, the board was agreeable to the setback that we showed for the office and the climate storage, so we did not adjust that one. With regard to McKinley, we did increase it from 30 to 65, bearing what the view kind of is trying to still get as much storage as possible to still make the project viable. And then you looked at the the second eastern property, which Mr. Verdi also owns. The wetlands do extend back there, so there's really not room to extend the indoor storage building to the east on the other property. So we left it where it was with the hopes of still obtaining a variance.
Did you look at rotating that building 90 degrees? Because I think it can fit in between the wetlands if you turn it 90 degrees. You know, kind of, figure out whatever way you want to go. I mean, it does fit.
To be honest, we did not look at that. We were looking more.
Okay.
That's something we can look at.
It allows you
We're
to,
also, open to merging the properties.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're saying there's not significant room on the other property to be able to accomplish.
Kind of start tailing towards the north, extends up into that property, so we don't have room to really extend east.
So there wouldn't be much benefit in joining those two together. I know there wasn't a lot of resistance around the proximity to party. I still personally, as I'm rereading the county concerns about this, putting a leach field, the septic tank in an office that close to the road, still worries me a little bit.
We were viewing it versus that utility also there, so we're equally distant off the road as that utility pole. The tower, square structure.
What other questions?
Leach field, we can do that. Doing benefits for-
If you turned that indoor storage building, I know you said you hadn't really looked at that. Would that, think that would potentially get you out of that rear yard setback?
Oh,
too?
yeah, 100%, 100%.
There's much room for parking.
You can still have all this area that he's talking about today, right?
Yeah, the goal is to be able to drive through that building if they wanted to. So if we spun at 9, we wouldn't have to wait for in it right now.
You said it's to drive through, so there'll be doors on both
Yeah,
long
so
sides.
25 doors, so that building there would be kind of more for your RV, your campers, for the winter months, so it pulls off so snow is not landing on top of your building. But some of them, we do have both sides open, so you can pull right through them. It's less of a safety hazard, I guess is a good way of saying it. So that way, if somebody has to try to back their camper in, they're more likely to hit poles or the building or somebody else's camper, and I am talking from experience in that sense. So we essentially, where you see the back part, we're essentially looking to do, some gravel back there, so they could pull through, and we can mitigate some of the risk in the sense of somebody hitting the building with the camper or somebody else's property.
That's not a building per se, then it's more just covered storage. Was that the way you're describing it?
Yes, it's a structure, cause it will have beams, it just will be open.
Like a full bar.
Like a pole
Yeah.
barn without the sides?
So are you building another road on the other side of that building? In the setback?
Pavement on the north side and gravel on the south side.
Even on the north side. Okay.
That gravel's gonna come around.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing is that this is designated a gravel storage area. And this shading tells me that's asphalt.
And why can't you drive through it if you turn it 90 degrees? Maybe I'm missing what you guys are saying.
I think we lose some available outdoor storage.
Not really. I mean, you slide the whole building, the building slides to the west per se, right? So you don't really lose anything. Can you make outdoor storage in a wetland? I think you can, the way you're showing it, right, or no?
Yeah. Dealing with the new DEC regulations right
Yeah.
now.
Okay. I mean, you're showing, I think you're showing storage in a wetland area,
Yes,
aren't you?
we are.
Okay, so,
Originally, when we spoke to them, that was agreeable.
okay,
On the new regs, we didn't proceed far enough along with the project, and we're not sure we're gonna fall under the old.
okay.
There wasn't a concern up in the, I guess it'd be the north eastern part
Right,
there to have
because,
the pavement in
DEC's
the,
already
in the
kind of
buffer.
agreed that probably is, they're not gonna take that wetland, because it's underneath the power poles and everything.
Gotcha.
That's how they,
But they were okay with it being in the buffer?
yes.
Okay.
And this. I'm assuming this dashed line is the easement for the power lines? Okay, so we're constrained on that, so I'm assuming they would not want.
Ah,
You flip the
okay,
building,
so
right?
we can't turn it 90 degrees then.
Welcome.
And those roads are allowed to be in the easement?
Yes, we have approval for this layout from both NICEAG and National Grid. Not NICEAG, NIPA.
Chuck, what kind of alternative would you be more likely to look at for those two smaller buildings down on Part E? You said you were still uncomfortable with those?
Yeah, my feeling in general is that this is a really tough parcel to put anything on. And I'm not sure if we're trying to cram more into this than is wise, but I understand from last meeting that the office area and that storage needs to be up front and center to be visible as part of the advertising for it. But I'm wondering if there might be a better place for it on the west, which it still looks like you're constrained. Here, is that the easement again, that dashed line? Sorry, as I turn, it goes away. One of my big concerns here, besides building something within the front yard, is that, like I said last time, we really don't know what's going on in this area, and I do not want to set you or the town or the state up for a situation where this road gets widened, all of a sudden they're having to take property and doing relocations. It seems like I don't want to set this up so that a couple years down the road, all of a sudden a portion or some of this or all of this has to go away because of construction that's out there.
I guess our thought was that they couldn't widen it too much with that utility pole, power. But I mean, I guess you could have NICEAG move that.
Do you need that 30 by 40 storage that's adjacent to the office, or could you just slide the office kind of where the storage area is and do away with the storage altogether? Get yourself a little bit more distance away from the road.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Cool.
I think we probably could shift it back, if we lost it.
Like Chuck said, I mean, it's everywhere I look, we're constrained by some
Yep.
some sort of line or wetland or easement.
Are these two small buildings one story?
Yeah.
Okay, so theoretically, if you move the office, you could put the storage, build a two-story building, put the storage up top? If it's that type of storage where you can do that?
I guess we never thought about it that way. I'm not gonna lie.
No, you
Yeah.
It's a
don't
different
expect an
perspective.
answer like immediately, just a thought.
Yeah, that's, we never considered something like that, truthfully.
Okay.
So,
Can I just say that if you lost that first small self-storage unit, that building could shift back and be out of the setback.
On the front corner.
Yeah, if you get rid of that, you can slide this back.
And we could,
Or you could take part of this.
again, yes. We can look at that. When we were concentrating on the board kind of the agreement with the front yard, Part D being okay. So when we concentrated more on shifting up.
Did you share this with Department of Transportation to find out if that I-81 interchange construction conflicts with this at all?
This was sent to County DOT a couple years ago to get their input, and they came back talking about driveway separation from McKinley. That was the extent of their comments.
So just to shed some light on that, the plans for that, including any future configuration, is completely up in the air at this point. It hasn't even reached the environmental impact statement phase. So that's where some of that's gonna get fleshed out, which is why I'm getting very nervous about
Yeah,
the entire project.
I mean, I don't know if you wanna, so this thing I found. Can you pass that down to Chuck? That's. I mean, it's up the road a ways, but
I mean, yeah, that's somebody's conceptual thought about where it would be.
that's not finalized yet.
No.
No, I think from the
Thank
last
you.
meeting, there's like 2 or 3 spots.
Any other thoughts before I do the public hearing?
If they move, if they did away with that 140 by 30 storage and they move the office up, does that alleviate some of your concerns? I think we're into the, let's see if I do this right here. Development scale. Yeah, you could be 40-ish feet instead of 15, something like that.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, I'm just
increase
thinking out
my
loud,
comfort level, yes.
just thinking out loud. And I guess that back building is 2 feet off the line, right? I mean, they're not. I personally didn't really focus on that in the last discussion because I thought they were going to utilize that land to the north. And I think, the equation, the new variable to the equation that those wetlands extend into that property, I get what they're saying.
But if you still combine lots, then you eliminate that rear yard setback problem still.
Or at least a part of it.
Yeah, you wouldn't even have to combine the lots. You could do a lot line adjustment on that back portion of it if you had to. That would solve that problem.
It's true.
Yeah, maybe there's solutions. I don't know.
And we'd be agreeable to either move the lot line or provide.
Okay.
When we go over to the wetland and realize we couldn't do much with it, so we still make it fit.
Okay, so at this time, I will continue the public hearing. Would anyone speak for this? Would anyone speak against this? This time I will close the public hearing. Any other thoughts, or maybe it'd be a good idea to run down what the current status of the discussion is?
Well, I don't think we have an issue with the McKinley Road. If that makes sense to everyone.
Yeah, I think the adjustment to McKinley Road is a lot more
They've done a
palatable.
good job.
right?
for that.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
You guys don't like the idea of shifting that building back. You're good with where the front of that building.
Which one? The climate, the big one?
51 feet on that one corner. You feel okay about that? Rather than,
I think so, because I'm thinking that, if we do away with the one storage over here on the other side of the property,
both
that
equal.
office is gonna be pretty darn close. Probably won't be 51, but it's gonna be in the 40s, I would think.
Gotcha. Okay.
My opinion. That's, I always gotta.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
I just don't know how to cite this, Chuck. I mean, I don't trust my ruler or my pen, so.
Yeah, with the way this property is, I wouldn't necessarily trust us, any of us, to do it. So there's three things that we're looking at. One is that the current proposal for McKinley Road, which is 65 feet, right? That's the.
Yep.
Most of us are feeling good about that.
Yep.
It's just a qualifying most of us. It's not meant to quantify.
No, I'm with you.
We're also talking about for the two small buildings on Pardee Road, basically eliminating the storage and sliding the office back so that it overlaps the footprint of the storage, essentially.
Yeah,
Basically the rear.
or even, you could, or probably shift the building a little bit. As you're going north, you can probably shift it a little bit west too, right? And pick up a
Oh,
little
that's
bit more
true.
space.
So let's say eliminate storage and maximize front yard.
Setback, right? Because you got to fight with that wetland boundary too, right? So as you're moving north, you got to move west.
And then if we had our full wish list, it would be to adjust that rear property line so that we could get
Sorry.
25 feet is the rear yard
Yes.
requirement for that.
Or he's going to combine them, right? Or whatever his decision is. And you said that property has just as many wetland challenges as this one, if you look at the map?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So the question is I mean, I think you're seeing we can't take this, we shouldn't be taking this to a vote tonight because I wouldn't want to make a mistake that basically excludes you from being able to do what you're planning on doing unintentionally. Are those three things something that would be agreeable and something you could get back to us next
Yeah.
month?
Want to take a vote? Fine.
Well, the only problem is we would have to give you some kind of relief on the front yard on Part E. And I wouldn't want to make, unless you can figure out right now what that would be. I wouldn't want to say, okay, we're gonna make that 30 feet and you wind up, 30-foot front yard, you wind up needing 28 to be able to fit everything in. That's fictitious numbers, but. Okay, are you all happy with that, if that's what?
Yeah, I mean, if they're not
Yeah.
married to the parking lot orientation, they could probably shift that building, I guess I was saying north earlier, east and north, I guess, right?
Yeah, you could do it east and north a little bit,
Yeah.
sure.
You probably get pretty darn close to 45 feet, Chuck, maybe 51.
Yeah.
I was trying to draw a line straight across between those two buildings.
So you mean almost move that whole thing northeast and then have the parking lot maybe be off to the side?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or have
that
the
makes
parking
sense,
lot,
yeah.
have the parking lot come in front of it or something,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that makes sense.
Here's the thing too, if
I
they're
don't
gonna-
think you
if
can
they're
vote
gonna
on.
consider a lot line
I don't think so
adjustment
either.
for this
Be comfortable.
largest building, you could consider a larger lot line adjustment, move the whole building.
I think he's contending with wetlands there though.
Yeah, okay.
I could,
Okay.
We be okay with, we said 40 foot.
Okay.
Yep. What are your thoughts on that?
That
good
fits
with
with my expectations.
And then what's the language we want to use around that 2 feet on the east side there?
So I think the way to handle that is with a condition, and to say this is all conditioned on that the rear lot line either being moved or the two adjacent parcels being combined to eliminate that variance.
Yeah, you'd have to do 23-foot lot line adjustment to get to the 25-foot
Yeah,
setback.
yeah.
And how they want to accomplish that is up to them. They just won't have the variance on the structure for the rear yard, so. If they choose not to do it, the structure gets smaller.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to discuss, if we're ready, would anyone like to discuss the 5 factors and make a motion? Don't all jump at once.
So I'll jump around.
This is yours, Chuck.
Jeez. Wow. For the day he's had.
It's a revolt.
It's a flip.
Okay, so let's talk about the and Ms. Luckett's demand. Let's talk about the 5 factors. So the first is whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties would be created. My answer to that is no, and my reasonings being, these are going to overlap with a few other things. The applicant has actually made some good efforts to move the structures away from McKinley. And we have just come to an agreement on moving the office building away from Part E. So my answer to that is no.
I agree.
I agree, plus they've put the landscaping in along McKinley. That's helpful.
It's a good add, yes.
I agree.
I agree.
Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. My answer to that is no, and my reasoning behind that is it's pretty obvious the applicant has gone through some pretty good gymnastics to be able to fit within the site here and accommodating all of our various concerns.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree, and we appreciate the effort.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And I would just add, it is a complicated lot. So, I mean, we appreciate the fact that you're willing to budge on some stuff and move some stuff around.
The third is whether the requested area variance is substantial. I'm still going to answer yes on this. The lot is in odd shape and has a lot of constraints on it. However, the applicant has shown willingness to reduce the various substantial variances that are being requested.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
The fourth is whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. My answer to that is no. Some of the reasoning behind this is the applicant has obviously moved the buildings away from McKinley and provided that vegetative buffer, which mitigates some concerns. And both the town and the DEC will have to have a say in construction within the wetland buffer area. So, you're still constrained by that. So that removes any concerns that I have related to that item.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
The final one is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. The answer to that's almost always yes. The applicant is proposing to construct structures that do not meet the bulk regulations for an industrial district, but this is not necessarily a reason to deny the variance.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
All right. So with that, I would like to make a motion on behalf of Joseph Verdi to make sure I get this right. To approve an area variance for a proposed self-storage facility with a front yard setback of 65 feet from McKinley Road and 40 feet from Pardee Road.
For that.
Do we want to delineate between the two buildings, Chuck? Because one's 51 right now and the other one is 40. Sorry. I don't mean
No,
to-
no, that's fine. So we're talking 40 feet for Pardee to the proposed office building. And 51 feet from Pardee for the proposed storage building. You guys okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And this is all contingent upon the applicant making either a lot line adjustment to be able to get a 25-foot rear yard on the proposed indoor storage for boats and RVs, or combining the two lots that he presently owns. And that's in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Rabia?
Yes, the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion. Motion carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You as well. Okay, so our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 3rd, 2025. I have no other business before the board. Does anyone else? Okay. There being no other business before the board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?